this is Mrs. Smekens, and for the last several lessons, we've talked a lot about our thinking voice. We've really been paying attention to how much this voice whispers to us during reading. Well, in this lesson series, I want to look at our thinking voice and how it can help us after reading. When we're done reading, it's still talking to us. Yeah, that's what we're going to use as we learn a new skill. Okay, let's pretend. Let's pretend that this is a text I read. Something I read, it's the original text, some author wrote it, and I read it, okay? And then all of a sudden I needed to write a report or a persuasive letter or an essay, and I wanted to use some of the author's ideas in my writing. I wanted to retell some of the author's ideas in my writing. Now, you could use quotation marks. You could take ideas from the author, put it in your own writing, and put quotation marks around it, right? Yeah, that's one way that you can, give information from another source. Okay, but there are other ways, and I want to talk about one of them in this lesson. I want to introduce you to the word paraphrase. Now, you might have heard of this before, okay? We're going to talk about paraphrasing, but say the word. Say paraphrase. Good. So paraphrasing is nothing more than retelling what the author said. You're going to retell it in your own writing. You're going to retell what the author said. The original here, that's what the author said. And so a paraphrase is a retelling. Yeah. Okay. So when you retell something that the author said, we want to really be careful that we say the same information, that we're correct, accurate, that we don't leave anything out, that we don't say anything wrong, okay? But we also want to put it in our own words. So this can kind of be like, how do you do that? Okay, so I'm going to give you some tips, and then I want to give you some steps, okay? And let's start with this. When you look at the original author text and what I'm going to paraphrase, what do you notice about the paraphrase in terms of length? Is this longer? Is this shorter than the original? About the same? Yeah, it's about the same. That's important. Sometimes when we paraphrase, or we think we're paraphrasing, and what we're doing is taking this big paragraph, this big idea from the author, and then we just say it in a sentence. Okay, that is not a very good paraphrase. A paraphrase should be about the same length as the original text. So if you took something this big, then it should take about the same length for you to say it in your retelling, in your paraphrase. Because if you don't use about the same length, then you're leaving probably some key information out, some facts, some details. Okay, now, the hard part is if you paraphrase, you can't take the words exactly from the author and put it in your writing, because that's not a paraphrase. So how do I make it about the same length, Mrs. Smekens, and put it in my own writing? If I'm retelling his ideas and I have to use about the same number of words, how do I do it without using the same as the author's words? Okay, remember, our thinking voice is going to help us with this after reading skill, because you don't paraphrase, you don't retell until you first read, right? Okay, our thinking voice is going to be huge for this. All right, so one of the secrets to paraphrasing is that idea that you have to put it in your own words. Have you heard that before? Yeah. What does that mean? Really, what does it mean? I'll tell you. It means you're going to say the same thing the author did, but you're going to use different words. You're going to use synonyms. Yeah, you're going to say the same idea, but you're going to use different words. Synonyms. You know why? because that's your writing. And it should sound like you. Oh, you're going to use the author's idea and you're going to say, I got this from this author. We'll cite it. That's another lesson. I just want to work on how are you going to take his idea and put it in here. You're going to make it about the same length, but you've got to make it sound like you, not the author. And so you do that by using synonyms, your own words. Don't talk like the author. Talk like you. That's what a paraphrase is. That's how you retell in your own words. The secret is synonyms. Okay, so now I want to teach you 5 steps. 5 steps to a paraphrase. And I'm going to teach them kind of quickly, but I'm going to teach them with hand signals. And then we'll slow down and you'll see me try it. Okay, so let's get your hands ready. Let's do the hand signals. Okay, paraphrase has 5 steps. Step 1, read. Step 2, remove. Okay, do that again. When you remove, drop the other hand. Remove. Good. Okay, then turn your hand that's up here, turn it into like a talking hand. You're going to explain what you just read. Let's do those first 3. When you paraphrase, first you have to read. Then you have to remove the text. Stop looking at it. Then you have to say what you just read. Then, same hand, turn it into your pencil. Write or type what you just said. Okay, let's do those first 4. There's 5, but let's do those 4. Ready? Okay, I'm going to read what the author said. Then I'm going to remove and stop looking at what the author said. And I'm going to tell myself with my thinking voice what I just read. And then I'm going to write it in my own words with my own synonyms. Good. Now you ready for step 5? Okay, remember you removed it? It was way over here, okay, and you just wrote it. Now you have to return to the text. So kind of do a swoop and come back to read. And the last time you do this, it actually means return to the text. Why? Because you just typed it or wrote it. Did you spell their name right? Did you get the date right? Did you have the correct fact? Because sometimes when you're reading and you remove and you're thinking and then you go to write, you're working so hard to just remember the ideas and the details and all of that you're like, does his last name have 2 T's or 1? Don't worry about it yet. Just get your idea. Write it. Everything out. Write it, type it all out. Step 4. Before you return to the text. And that's what you're checking. Did I spell it right? 2 T's or 1 T? So you know you're going to look at it, but don't look at it. You remove it. Don't look at it until you have said and written your retelling. Your, what do we call this? Paraphrase. Good. All right, now look at the screen. Now look at the screen. All right, here are the 5 steps. And as I explain the 5 steps, let's do the hand signals, okay? Here we go. So the first thing you do, you've read something and you're like, oh, that is brilliant. I want to use that in my report. Okay, read. Now, whoa, what do you got to do? Remove. Good. Okay, so then what? I have to tell myself using my thinking voice what I just read. Yeah. Then what? Write it or type it. Good. Done? No. Why? Return to the text. What am I going back to the text for? To check spellings, to check numbers, to check just those little facts that I might have, I kind of like, I couldn't quite remember exactly, but I got the idea written. I got it in my own words. You want to get it in your own words, synonyms. Before you return to the text. Don't look back at that text. Okay, otherwise that's when you start stealing the author's words and then you don't sound like you anymore. Okay, you guys, let's try this. Or actually, let's watch Mrs. Smekens try it first, okay? Let's just pretend, I'm not reading this whole thing to you, but let's just pretend that I had read all about trees and how they grow. And look in the bottom corner there at that visual. I had learned, one thing I learned about trees was that you can tell how old a tree is because every year it has another ring. Have you ever seen a tree cut down, right? And you look, it kind of looks like a bullseye. Yeah. Okay, and so each of those rings is another year older. That's what it is. Okay, so let's just pretend I've been reading all about trees, and now all of a sudden I have to do some kind of report, and I read something that the original author wrote, and I'm like, oh, that is so good. I want to put that in my writing, in my retell, but I have to paraphrase it. I have to. It's not my idea. I want to make sure to say this was the author's idea, but first I got to put it in my own words, about the same length in my own words. Okay, so watch Mrs. Smekens. I'm just going to take one paragraph from that article. So first I'm going to read, okay, just one paragraph, and then I'm going to do a paraphrase. Okay, so here's my paragraph. These rings can tell us how old the tree is. One light ring plus one dark ring equals 1 year of the tree's life. Okay, now I need to remove. So I take it off the screen. I stop looking at it. Now I need to say what I just read. This is where my thinking voice is going to help me. Okay, Ms. Smekens, say what you just read. Something about trees and rings. I can't quite remember. That's not unusual. Sometimes after you read, sometimes when you were reading, your distracting voice was distracting you and you weren't really focused. So then when you removed the text and stopped looking at it, took it off the screen, then you're like, I don't know. I can't explain it. No problem. It's normal. So let's deal with it. What are you supposed to do, Ms. Smekens? I'll tell you what you do. You repeat the first 3 steps. It's normal not to understand what you read sometimes. Fine. So fix it. How do you fix it? Start over. Okay. We're going to read. I'm going to remove, and I'm going to focus this time so I can say what I read. Okay, here I go. Here's the same paragraph. Here I go. These rings can tell us how old the tree is. One light ring plus one dark ring equals 1 year of the tree's life. Got it. Remove. Now I need to explain what I just read. So now I say, well, a tree has many rings. Remember, my thinking voice is helping me. A tree has a lot of rings. It has 1 ring for every year it is old, and each year it gets a light and a dark ring. Yeah, I did it. Now I do step 4. Now I have to write it. Now I have to write down what I just said, right? Okay, a tree grows a light ring and a dark ring every year. That's how you know how old it is. Now what? Read, remove, say it, write it, return. Return and check that I have all the details correct. So here it is again. It's back up on the screen. Now, there weren't any really big words in this, and there were no numbers. There weren't even any names. So that whole checking, I don't have a lot to check right now, but let's check a few other things. Is it about the same length? And did I use my own words, synonyms? Okay, well, let's count Mrs. Smekens' words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, let's count the original. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 20 to 24. Is it about the same length? And let's look at how the original started. These rings can tell us a tree grows up. Did I use the author's words? Sound just like the Did I make it sound like What are we learning? What's the skill? It's called paraphrase, and it's when you retell an idea from an author, but you have to make it about the same length so that you get all the details, but you have to use your own words, and those words are synonyms. Good. All right, you guys, you want to try the next one with me? Yeah, I got another paragraph from that same tree article. Okay, what's the first thing we got to do? What do we got to do? Read. Yep, get your hands ready. Okay, I'll be your reading voice. All right, let's read. The light-colored rings represent wood that grew in the spring and early summer, while the dark ring represents wood that grew in the late summer and fall. Okay, now what? Remove. Now what? Okay, say it to yourself. What'd you just read? Are you struggling? Something about spring and fall? Something about, Your thinking voice has to be paying attention during reading in order to help us after reading. What do we got to do, you guys? We got to start over, right? Now, just reread this part over. Start over with our 5 steps. Okay, now pay attention. Ready? The light-colored rings represent wood that grew in the spring and early summer. The dark rings represent wood that grew in the late summer and fall. Close your eyes. Picture the light rings and picture them growing bigger and bigger in the spring and early summer. The summer's getting late. The summer, it's getting closer to school and fall, and now the dark rings are starting to grow. Open your eyes. Remove the text. Say what you just read. Okay, so you probably, in different ways, but we all probably said something like, a tree grows its light rings at the beginning of spring and at the beginning of the summer, and it grows the dark, thin ring at the end of the summer, right before school starts in the fall. Okay. Now what do we do, you guys? We got to write it. Okay, so what would we be writing? What would we be writing? You can write it, you can type it, or you can just watch Miss Smith say what exactly how you would write this. Okay, the tree grows its light ring when? No, I'm not putting the text back up. When? In the spring. Only in the spring and the beginning of the summer. Of the summer. Got it. Okay. Done? Do you have all of the facts? No. What else? What are we missing? The dark ring. What do you know about the dark ring? It's in the fall. Not just the fall, before the fall, the end of the summer. Okay, how are we going to say that? How are we going to say that? At the end of the summer and in the fall, a tree grows its dark ring. Got it. Okay, let's count. Let's count. On the screen, count the words. 28. Okay, we're hoping that we're about the same. I think we're going to be pretty close, you guys, because you said it very similar. 30. 28, 30. Is it about the same length? Oh, yeah. Let's check. The light-colored rings represent. That's the first 4 or 5 words from the author. The light-colored rings represent. Does that sound like you? No. You don't walk around talking like that, so don't write like that. The tree grows its light ring. Well done. Well done, class. In this lesson, what we've been working on are the 5 steps to paraphrase. And what's a paraphrase? A paraphrase is when we retell an author's ideas. And let's just super fast do the hand signals. What are the 5 steps? Don't look at the chart. What are the 5 steps? Here we go. Read, remove, say it, write it or type it, return to check it. Good. Okay, so if you were in Mrs. Smekens' class, here's what you would do. I now want you to use those same 5 steps, and I'm going to have you actually print this off so that you have it as your reminder. Okay, the same 5 steps, and if you need to repeat because you weren't paying attention and you can't explain it, okay? But then I'm going to give you a couple paragraphs from Because of Winn-Dixie, and I'm going to give you that tree article. And you can read them both. You can read just one. It doesn't matter. But here's what you have to do. You have to write 4 paragraph paraphrases, 4 of them, 4 paragraphs. Okay, so now look, you can either do the tree article or you can do Because of Winn-Dixie. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 paragraphs right in there. Okay, and there's lots of paragraphs in this one, and we've done 2, but there's a lot of other ones you could pick from. Whichever one you want, I want you to say, I'm doing Because of Winn-Dixie, or I'm doing the tree article, and I want you to tell me what paragraph number. I put paragraph numbers on those articles, so you tell me what paragraph number are you doing, and I want you to read it off the screen. Then I want you to stop looking at it. And I want you to say, and then I want you to write, or you can type in this, okay? It's a Google slide. You can type into it. I want you to write, or you could just type in any document and send it, either one. But you can't write it if you can't say it. Then you're going to type it. And then what are you going to do? Go back to whichever one you read to check spelling, facts, numbers. Did you miss anything? And if you did, just add it in. That's okay. But you've already written the paraphrase in your own words. So you've done the hard part. You just want to make sure you got all the little details spelled right and numbers and all that kind of thing. Okay? So you're going to do 4. That's why your handout here has a 1, 2, 3, 4. You pick any 4 paragraphs from either of those 2 texts, and you tell me what paragraph number you're attempting to paraphrase, and then you don't need your pencil until after you read, remove, say it, then write it. Check it, and move on to the next one. If you were in Mrs. Smekens' class, that's what we would be doing today, but your teacher might have a better idea.